Welcome to the Here's Waldo podcast, where we sit down with top visionaries and creatives in the video game industry. Together, we'll unravel their journeys and learn more about the path they're forging ahead. Now, let's get started with the show.
I'm Lizzie Mintis, founder and CEO of Here's Waldo Recruiting, a boutique video game recruitment firm. This is the Here's Waldo podcast. In every episode, we dive deep into conversations with creatives, founders, and executives about what it takes to make a successful video game. You can expect to hear valuable lessons from their journey and get a glimpse into the future of the industry. This episode is brought to you by Here's Waldo Recruiting, a boutique recruitment firm specializing in the video game industry that prioritizes quality over quantity and values transparency, communication, and diversity. We partner with companies, creatives, and programmers to understand the why behind their needs and provide a white glove experience that ensures a win-win outcome. Today, we have Paxton Galvanek with us. He is currently the CEO and co-founder of Studio Hermitage. Did I get it right?
You got it.
An amplifier embracer group company working on a new IP across various mediums. Paxton has more than 20 years of management experience. He was the general manager at Funcom for over 5 years, a partner and business development director at a consulting group working in the video game development industry, and owned an advertisement and marketing firm in New York and New Jersey for over 10 years, and several other companies. He is a serial entrepreneur. He's based in Raleigh, North Carolina, with his wonderful partner, 4 boys, 3 cats, including 2 kittens, Onks and Cole, that were rescued from a gutter lately. He is passionate about his family and work. Let's get started. Thanks for being here, Paxton.
Thank you.
You're the CEO of a new studio, which I correctly pronounced.
You did. Great job.
Thank you. I remember we had a conversation about it. What if
you can call it Studio Hermitage, but we like to be fancy and call it Studio Hermitage. So, yeah.
Tell us about it.
So we've been in business now for about 7 months. We are a Embracer Group studio. It's through the funding arm called Amplifier Game Invest. They fund us, and there's about 14 or 15 other studios, small to mid-sized studios in that group, but it's under that funding arm. But we are part of the Embracer Group. Currently, there are 7 of us on the team. We kept the team small in the beginning because we're developing an intellectual property. We had a lot of contractors working over the past couple of months, but we've been developing an intellectual property that we're going to then translate across multiple mediums, and I'll kind of go through that a little bit. But the founders and I have 2 co-founders. The first is Justin Achille. He is our chief creative officer, and he comes from he's been all over the place. He was recently at Paradox, but he was the original creator of the World of Darkness IP, which is Vampires Masquerade, Werewolves, like all these, there's been a lot of games from that. But he's worked with Paradox and CCP. He was originally at White Wolf. He also was at Ubisoft and Red Storm. He worked on Assassin's Creed and Star Trek and all these games. But he's got 30 years of experience doing, game design and creative. And then my other co-founder is Andy Foltz. He is the studio art director, and he was at Red Storm for most of his career, working on the same type of games. He's worked on Division, Werewolves Within, Star Trek Bridge Crew, Assassin's Creed. He also worked on that Mythic Quest Apple Plus TV show. He was an art director on that for a little while, but now he's one of our co-founders. So we are the 3 co-founders of Studio Hermitage, and we're working on some really exciting projects. So we're excited. I can talk about it more, but we can.
Yeah, tease us a little bit. What can you say? I know your website is pretty bare bones.
And we do that on purpose because we were developing an intellectual property, but a lot of us came from the video game industry. So at the core, our company is a video game development company, but we are a transmedia company. So we're taking intellectual property and we're working on some pretty cool projects. Like I'll mention a few of them. So with the Embracer Group, there's a lot of companies involved there. So it's Gearbox, THQ Nordic. We also Lord of the Rings is owned. The Middle Earth company is owned by Embracer. So we get to partner with a lot of these companies and reach out to them. So we are currently partnered with Dark Horse Comics, doing a comic book series for our IP, which is really exciting. We are working with Asmodee, who does board games and tabletop games. working on a tabletop role-playing game with them. Uh, we are in talks with a couple of the other studios, but our company has a couple projects kind of lined up for year one, and that does include the comic book, the TTRPG, an audio drama. So an episode, several episodes, with actors. We're working on that right now, telling a story, on Spotify or YouTube. And then we are building our video game as well. So we're going to start prototyping a video game very soon, and we have some game types in mind, and we're going to be building that over the next 2 years or so. So those are the first couple of projects. We have a lot of other ones lined up, but that's what we're announcing now.
So you have a lot going on.
We do. Thank goodness for my project manager, Lee, she was a marketing director at a limited run and a producer, which is also another Embracer studio, but she was at Ubisoft for years. She knows how to manage multiple projects. So she does a good job handling all the fine details of all these different projects. So.
Really important, especially when you have people.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that. What inspired you to start the studio?
Well, honestly, I was happy at Funcom. I was the general manager. They still are working on the Dune Awakening survival game, which is where you and I met because I was doing hiring there, in charge of hiring and operations for Funcom. But I didn't want to leave. I wasn't expecting on leaving. The Amplifier and Embracer Group actually came to me and my partner Justin because we worked together on Dune and said, we want to start building intellectual properties. We need somebody that can run a company, and we have somebody that knows how to make intellectual properties. If we pair the two of you, would you be interested in starting your own company? And I said, that sounds like a dream opportunity. Somebody saying, here's some money, here's an opportunity, you get to build a team. Are you interested? And I said, yeah, that sounds exciting to me. I mean, it was sad leaving Funcom because I built that over 5 years. I think we went from 225 employees. I think there's 450 now. I was working globally on hiring, and it was a lot of work, and I love that company, and I still do. So it was sad leaving that, but I was excited about this opportunity to create something new, something that I'm passionate about. Video games, media in general, comic books, board games. It's all exciting. So I could not turn down the opportunity. And Justin and I worked together before, so I knew I could work well with him. So we kind of pitched a couple creative ideas to the Amplifier team, and they loved everything we were talking about. And they said, all right, January 1st, let's kick off this new company. You guys could run it and kind of do your own thing. Justin, make your IP. Paxton, you run the company and staff up, and let's do this. It was exciting.
That's wild. I've never really heard about people getting poached to start a company.
It never happens. Normally you have to pitch. Most of the studios in Embracer, they are a team of people that have created a cool concept, like a vertical slice of a game, and have shown it to them and said, hey, listen, we need additional funding. What do you think about this? So Amplifier will then say, okay, this is a market that we want to tap into. This is a cool team. We vibe with them. We're going to give them the funding to do this over the next couple of years. This is a very different case. This was them saying there's an opportunity here with people that we've worked with. And one of the key people at Amplifier, his name's Lawrence Poe. He was the president of Funcom. He was one of the C-level people, but he worked with me and worked with Justin. So he was the one that said, I know these two guys, Justin makes worlds, Paxton runs companies. If I could partner the two of them, we might be able to come up with something amazing here. So he kind of brought us all together and aligned the stars for us to do this. So it's different and it's exciting. It's a different way of getting it. I mean, I feel blessed because this doesn't happen to a lot of people. Just saying, here's a company, go with it. I've had to fight for my companies to get funding, and over the years, I've owned a lot of different companies, and I've fought for I've taken out home equity lines to keep my companies afloat for certain months. That's what I've done over the years. So this was very different and exciting.
Well, I was going to ask you about your funding deal and how you got funding, because I know it's such a point where people are struggling today, although it seems like there's more of the Embracer situation where a larger company is spinning up all of these new studios. But
Right.
just based on your business history and what you've seen from people in the industry, do you have any fundraising
It's
tips?
tough out there. Yeah, it's tough out there. I'm actually part of a couple CEO groups. We have Discord servers and chats and all that, and a lot of them are looking for additional publishing money and VC money, and it's very hard right now. The market's been tough on people lately, and so a lot of investors aren't as open as they were in the past. So people have been fighting to get funding when prior to that they'd be able to walk into a meeting with a easy vertical slice of their game and get a big chunk of money. Now it's a lot of milestones and toll gates and smaller amounts of money, and the terms aren't that good. So right now the market's a little tough for people that want to get money for their game ideas. Again, I feel really blessed because it is part of the Embracer Group, which did have some tough news lately a couple months ago with a deal that got lost. But the company in all, it's a huge organization. There's a lot of money involved. They have a plan to help grow IPs, which is why they purchased the Lord of the Rings. They have Borderlands. They have a lot of really well-known IPs, and they're trying to get more of them. So,
Yeah, seems like a unique situation. And I read
yeah,
about Lars's history and very inspired by
yeah,
entrepreneurialism and what he's built.
he's a good guy. So
I love that. Uh, so you founded an inflatable rental company and like a game studio. I'd like to hear more about that and
yeah.
marketing agency. Tell us about the
Oh my
company
goodness.
you
Okay.
started.
So my crazy history is I graduated from college in 2001, I think it was, and I started working in the video and film production world. I became producer, director, editor. I was doing TV commercials in the New York, New Jersey area. I realized that I could form my own LLC and kind of put some of my projects through the company. It's better to run a business than it is to do it through your social security number. So I started a company to kind of work on some freelance stuff. I actually turned that company, that freelancing company, into a full-blown ad agency. I started picking up clients here and there over the years. So I owned at the core a marketing and advertising firm in New York and New Jersey. We did websites and logos and brands, and I worked with Verizon Wireless and the Bank of New York and Bristol Myers Squibb. Like I was working with some pretty high profile clients, a lot of law firms who needed marketing and advertising help. So I did that for several years. And then honestly, I got sick of the New York, New Jersey area. I got sick of the tolls, the road tolls, the taxes, the harsh mentality of people. So a lot of my family was moving down to North Carolina. So I said, let me move down there. And I love the Triangle, North Carolina, Durham, Raleigh area, because a lot of people from the Northeast and from all over have come here. And I feel like it's some of the best people because there's a great mentality with people. They're very positive. There's a lot of very intelligent people here. There's a tech hub here. There's a lot of video game companies here. I mean, if you look at Epic and Insomniac and Ubisoft Red Storm and Amanji, I mean, there's studios all over the Raleigh area, and I liked that because I was always a gamer at heart. But so I had this ad agency, and I kept it down here in North Carolina. But then I started saying, well, I want to start some other companies. I started doing event marketing, so I started a bounce house company. So I bought these inflatables because I was like, well, if I want to do some events and promote some of my clients, maybe having these inflatables out for these realtors or whatever might be something cool. So I bought like 15 of these huge vinyl inflatables, and I started a company called Jump and Laugh, and I had that running. I ended up selling that to somebody who was really interested in it. So I started it, ran it for about 2 years, sold it. After that, I started a video game lounge. It was like let's say a 3,000, 4,000 square foot space that had booths and video game systems and a stage and all this stuff where people can come in and have parties and do tournaments. Like we would host Epic Games would come in all the time, and we do Gears of War tournaments, and we did Call of Duty tournaments, and we had Magic the Gathering booster draft events on Friday nights, and we did Pokemon cards. And I just had this brick and mortar game centered lounge for people to hang out in. So I owned that for about 2.5 years while I owned the ad agency, while I kind of had the bounce house company. And then a guy from Cisco said, I love this thing. I want to buy it. So I ended up selling that to him. So I've done this a couple times where I've started companies, branded it, got it up and running, got it profitable, and sold it. So, yeah, so those are those two companies. It was a lot of fun doing that, but there was some tough times too. I mean, running a couple companies at the same time was very difficult, and it was nice when you get to sell them. So, yeah.
And then what was your transition into game recruiting? You worked for a game recruitment agency, which is funny.
Right.
Like, how did recruiting find you? I always love the story. Or how did
Yeah, so okay. So the story actually is with me in 2007 where I was on the news for using a video game to save some people's lives. That was, years ago. And I thought to myself, this whole game industry, there's something more than, corporate America. There's something better in the game industry. There's so much passion and excitement. I want to be part of that. So at the core, I always thought, how can I break myself into this industry? I've owned companies, I've done advertising and marketing. I started this video game lounge and I started getting connections with Epic and Ubisoft, and I started to get friends and became friends with the people at the universities that a lot of students were graduating with these degrees in game development. I said, how could I get in there? So my father actually owned a consulting company, and he said, listen, I can give you this arm of it and you could run your own, started from scratch, the video game development. Would you want to do this? And we'll give you all the tools and all the applicant tracking system, get everything going. Would you want to break into the industry that way? And I ended up becoming a partner at the Chatham Group and ended up getting consulting agreements and recruitment agreements with a lot of big studios. Like I was working with Activision, I had a Take-Two Interactive contract. I was working with Tripwire and Firaxis and a lot of mobile studios. And I worked with 20 or so studios over 5 or 6 years and just built up these great relationships and helped build some pretty cool teams over the years. I just said, how can I get into this industry? And that was a really not an easy way, but it was an avenue that I can take. So I took it. And it's funny how I ended up at Funcom because I was actually building the Destiny 2 team with Activision. And I ended up trying to recruit the executive producer from Funcom. And he flipped the script on me and said, hey, we need somebody to kind of head up operations, HR, everything. And here at Funcom, you want to talk to me? So he totally flipped the script on me. And I said, I might want to go into the game development industry itself instead of being, an external. So I ended up then joining Funcom and was there for over 5 years as doing general management, HR, operations, admin stuff. Yeah.
So
Kind of
you're
how I did it.
in.
Yeah.
You're a poach. Hiring is rewarding when you find the right person and it works. Can you talk about your most heartwarming hire throughout the years? Is there anything that sticks out? I'm sure
Oh
you've
my
had
gosh. I have hired so many, like hundreds and hundreds of people at all these studios. There's so many stories about people that, the people that put in the effort and the people that try. I mean, I have one story of a guy that was working at Trendy on a game called Dungeon Defenders, and the studio wasn't doing very well at the time. I think they just got Dungeon Defenders 2 out, and it was kind of ramping down. And he was an Unreal Engine, designer, and he was just like, I want to get into more AAA games, and he ended up. I got him a job at Firaxis, working on XCOM 2, and this guy tried so hard in the sense that he gray boxed levels. He went above and beyond because I knew how passionate he was, and I just aligned the stars for him and got him the right interviews with the art directors and got him in process and helped him along the way. That this guy took his career from a double A studio to a triple A studio, and I mean, he is now shining. I think he's a lead or a director there over there now. So, it was very fulfilling taking somebody that really, really wanted something, was passionate about something, but they weren't able to get their foot in the door. So I was able to help facilitate that and help build a great team of passionate people. So there's just one story, but I mean, there's so many people all the people I hired at Funcom over the years that worked on Conan and Dune and Moons of Madness and all these games. And I love all these people, and I'm happy to have given them stability because it could be an unstable industry. Like there's a lot of studios that only have funding for a short period of time, and they have to get their game out. I was working with Boss Key, which is Cliff Blazinski's company in Raleigh. I was helping them with their Lawbreakers game, and they only had a certain amount of time with their funding from Nexon, and I felt bad because these people were the best of the best people. All those people there, they're top notch. They're all over now at Epic and Insomniac and at Sony. They're all over the place, but they had a short period of time that they had to get their game out and do it. And I felt bad for that. So I always want to build great teams and give people stability and feel like they can work towards something and not have to worry, are they going to be paid, day to day? Like, is there some kind of stability there? So I try to work with clients, and I always try to clients that have stability and offered something more than just, super high salaries. So.
Yes. And I think that is important. And as recruiters, you see that people less in games, more in tech, but sometimes people are so caught up in the salary and the fact that this company is paying them this much more. Right. And I always feel like a jaded recruiter when I tell them, but this is $10,000. And it depends, of course, on what scale of life you're in after you hit I have enough money to live.
Right. Yeah, there is that point where it's like, Absolutely. There's that one point where it's like, well, it's nice, but it's like I'm fine. I can live my life fine with this amount of money. So yeah.
Yeah, the first person I ever hired told me, Lizzie, sometimes I think about how much money I make compared to teachers and people in life. And, in the grand scheme of things, this is incredible. And it was so refreshing because you never hear that.
I am in the same boat because my partner Tony, she works at Duke Hospital and she does radiology, and she doesn't get paid. I mean, she gets paid a fraction of what I get, and I feel horrible in the sense that like you're saving people's lives doing radiology, and I'm making entertainment like video games and comic books, and like I'm like it's just you are. I feel like you should be paid so much more for what you do, and I should be paid less. I feel that I honestly feel that way sometimes. But she wanted that to help people. I mean, she chose that career path for a reason, and she loves what she does. But yeah, there's different salaries for different roles up there. So
It doesn't always make sense.
it doesn't.
And sometimes I know we've talked about this one-on-one, but sometimes you have more junior candidates who graduated into this booming market and let's say graduated into Amazon games, and then they're there for a few years and they're
Right.
making 200,000 and they have 3 years of experience. And then you talk to them and this is their reality, right?
Right.
Hey, this is where I'm at currently. So it's always interesting.
Yeah,
Education.
those are some crazy stories. They're kind of few and far between because there's a lot of people that want those jobs. So you have to be good at what you do. And I actually speak at a lot of conventions about breaking into the industry and how to position yourself and having passion and figuring out what you want to do. Like it's important for people to love what they do, and it shines through their work. If they love what they do, they're going to get a job if they keep pushing and pushing. So there's a lot of people that won't get jobs, and that is sad. But the ones that do, they're at least passionate about it, and they want those roles.
Yeah, okay. I know you speak at a ton of conferences and you've done seminars. What would you say your most impactful talk or talks are? Where can people get them? And can you give me a quick high point summary?
I normally talk about how to brand yourself because I take my marketing and advertising experience and I take that
Yeah.
into my HR recruiting world. And people don't know how to properly brand themselves. And a brand is it's not just like my name. It's what you bring to the table. It's your personality. It's your experience. It's who you are. It's more than just like this piece of paper. So I talk to people about how to brand yourself, how to position yourself to get a job, how to showcase yourself, ultimately how to get your foot in the door. I give people tips and tricks on that. So normally the type of people that have ever seen me speak are people that are just about to graduate or are juniors that really, have worked at an indie studio and don't know how to break into a double A or triple A studio that are just like, what can I do differently? How can I redo my portfolio? Why is my resume not getting any hits? Why is nobody talking to me? So I will put these talks and presentations together to try to help focus people and give them tips and tricks, and it's normally pretty popular. I think taking my marketing and advertising background with that HR recruiting experience, then with owning companies, I've hired so many people at different companies that I know what mobile studios look for, what AAA studios look for, what I looked for when I was building teams. And sometimes it's not about the perfect piece of paper of like, do you have exact criteria for the job? Sometimes it's about personality, passion, drive, cultural fit, like these things. So you have to make sure that you convey that you have a personality and you're not just like a drone. I always look for personalities whenever I interview anybody. That's like it's important to build a team to have a great personality and have a team that can that's cohesive and knows how to work together, and that's important for that. You can find my talks if you just search my name. I've talked at the East Coast Gaming Conference, at game summits, talked at universities before. If you just look up Paxton Galvanek on Google, I'm sure you can find some talks, or see me on Fox News from when I saved those people from the video game stuff in 2007. There's videos there on that too. So
Can you elaborate on that for everybody? Your video from
yeah,
2000.
so I was running a video game clan, and I was playing games like Battlefield and America's Army and World of Warcraft, and I ran clan called the Wraiths, and I ended up playing a lot of this game called America's Army. It was a free-to-play shooter put out by the U.S. Army. I ended up learning a lot about the medic class in that, where I took PowerPoint presentations, and there's this whole section in the game where you have to sit through medic training and stuff to actually get the medic class within the game. It was pretty interesting. So I sat through this, and I actually used the information that I learned in the game in real life when I saw a car flip over a bunch of times. It was on fire. There were people kind of in it. I stopped my car. I was on the other side of the road, stopped my car, ran across the road, pulled these two guys out, and then administered like, I guess, life-saving techniques where I raised the guy's hand above his head because he lost some fingers, and I bandaged the guy's head that was bleeding, and I got him to safety. And I had the confidence because of what I kind of learned in that game, because it talked all about triage and how to do that. And I ended up messaging the people at America's Army and saying, I just want to thank you for putting that stuff in the game. I was actually able to use it. It gave me the confidence in a real life situation to kind of help people where there was nobody to help. So they were like, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing! You used the video game to like save somebody." So they put me up on like Fox News and on like Adam Carolla show. They kind of put me all over the place and said video games can be used for something good. It's not just these people that do horrible things. There is good uses for video games. So I got in the news because of that kind of stuff. So yeah.
What a touching story. And even if many people who had the training, I don't think are going to run across the road and administer. So
I just thought to myself, if this ever happened to me, and I was with my little son at the time and my wife, and I thought to myself, if I ever flipped over in a car, I hope that somebody would come in and pull me out. That's kind of what I thought to myself. Like, I'm just hoping that somebody would be like, I have to save this person. So, maybe someday it'll get paid forward. I don't know. Like, I just figure if there's people out there that do this kind of stuff, then we'll all be in a better place as a society.
that's very true. And I feel like when you put good into the world like that, this is a little woo-woo, but I really believe it. It comes back to
Oh
you
yeah.
somehow, some way, in
Yeah,
unexplainable force.
absolutely.
Yeah, it's my life philosophy. You've worked at a recruiting agency, you've worked internally hiring, now you're the CEO of your own company. Talk to everybody about best practices around hiring, because I know sometimes it's great, but often there are some bumps on the road.
Right. Best practices. Wow. So there's a lot that comes in with that. So I've learned that getting your hiring team involved early on is really, really important. And even being a recruiter and even being internal at a company, like getting people involved early on, whether it be a lead, a manager, just people that are going to be making the decision is super important. Getting them to kind of sign off on the the role, what they're looking for, even the candidates being part of the interview process, early on as possible. Like I like to get most of my team involved, people that are going to either be working with these people or definitely the leads, managers, director level people, getting everybody to kind of understand what we're looking for and then be part of that process is extremely important in hiring the right people. Just understanding what you want for that role across the board so everybody's on the same page, because if you have people that aren't looking for the same thing, it's going to cause confusion in any hiring process. So making sure things are clearly defined, whether it's with what you're looking for in the candidate, the role, experience level. I mean, we all know that you're going to get candidates from all walks of life with ranges of experience and different salaries and at different locations. Just making sure you kind of are aligned with, okay, this is the most important things we want for this role. Are we all on the same page here? Making sure that we don't have anybody toxic, making sure that, just diving into finding the right person, make sure everybody's aligned with that. It's probably one of the most important things. So that's that's one. Um, what else we got? I would say that compensation, understanding compensation and benefits. I have been blessed by having a company with Funcom and in my current company that understand work-life balance, taking care of employees. So they're Scandinavian companies, and with Scandinavian companies come with this great work-life balance, taking care of employees, and understanding that you can offer more than just a salary to a candidate has been amazing. Just saying, listen, we don't have a crunch culture. We have a work-life balance. We offer great salaries and benefits. You'll get fully paid medical, dental, vision. All these things are great selling points when talking to candidates. So making sure that you have a good, I guess, robust package when you talk to candidates and making sure candidates understand that it's not just about a salary or it's not just about a job title. It's the bigger picture. It's it's what the team looks like. It's what you're offered. It's that work-life balance. It's, you know, are you excited about the project? So those kind of things are really important. Putting together that package, making sure everybody on in the company is aligned with what are we offering? What kind of culture do we have? What kind of people do we want to fit in those roles? That's another best practice, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think it's also an educational piece about getting people to see the bigger picture because people do compare offers on a spreadsheet. You've talked to
I
this.
know, yeah,
Like, oh,
I've
I
dealt with
love
that.
the offers in a spreadsheet. Well, what game do you like? And also really important, where is this game going to take your career?
Right.
Potentially. What is the upwards move? Are you just going to be a cog in the wheel? Do you want that brand name on your resume? Is it a project you love where you get to have a lot of ownership? There's so many considerations that sometimes can't always be worked out on a spreadsheet.
Absolutely. Yeah, when you get those analytical people that really just like to put things on a spreadsheet, it's like, okay, have you looked at all the pieces of the puzzle here? Have you, are you talking about, there's so many factors that come into a role, and understanding all those before you make a decision is important. So that's why it's good to talk to recruiters and talk to HR professionals, because they'll sit down with you normally and explain all those aspects of like, this is what it can do, and this is what you were looking for in your career. This is how, this would help in this, and talking out salary, like, oh, maybe taking this, $5,000 less or whatever per year may be a better cultural fit for you and give you a better, work-life balance so you could spend time with your family. That was important, as opposed to this company, which is known to have, crunch culture. You'll be working 70, 80 hours a week and you may not see your kids. Is that worth $5,000 to you? Let's talk that out. Like, so it's
Yes.
just, yeah, it's just important to kind of know all the details.
Amount per hours worked is key there, right? What is your
Yes.
hourly rate? The salary might be more, but if you're working double, are you
Right.
really making more?
Yep.
Where are you in your life? Do you have a family? Is it just you and you love to work?
Yeah,
If
because
so,
that's fine then. If you love to
yeah,
work, then that's perfectly fine. But if you value, family and life, or you have a hobby, if you like hiking, like, know that if you go into a job that has a crunch culture, you may be paid more money, but you may not be able to hike as much as you want. So,
yeah, trade-offs. So
yeah.
you worked in all these different industries that all seem to correlate perfectly into what you're doing today. But how did you make that transition? Because I think people struggle a lot with doing slightly different things.
I feel like I am a jack of all trades, but not a master of one. That's always been me, where I can understand many aspects about a business. Like, you could put me into a meeting with a bunch of lawyers, and I could understand enough about the legal world to talk about contracts and laws itself. You could put me into a production environment for game development. I know enough about Scrum and Agile and planning and reviews. I know enough about it to be dangerous, but I am not going to be your producer. I know enough about hiring to hire the right people and get best practices in place. But, maybe I'm not the HR director. I just know a lot about a lot of different things, which makes me suited to be a CEO of a small to mid-sized company. I don't think I'll ever be the CEO of an Activision or a Take-Two. Like, that's not me. Just, I am more suited to a smaller company where I always try to find the best people to do the jobs, and I kind of enable them. That's always been my philosophy. Like, I'll hire the best people that I think could fit these roles. And I know that I'm not a great designer, and I know I'm not a great project manager. You are. And my job here is to make sure that you can flourish in your role. And I think that's important for any CEOs to understand, is like, building the right team is important, and then getting out of their way and
Yes.
giving them the resources. Like, let them do their thing. Like, I hire people because I trust them and I know that they know what they're doing, and I am only going to inhibit them. So my job is honestly to unblock roads, make sure we have funding, make sure that we're aligned with our schedule, make sure all of our software is in place. Like, I just I make the runway clear for everybody. That's my job, and keep people on the right path. So and I'm honest, I'm open and honest with people. Some of the best books I ever read about management and leadership. One of them is Radical Candor. And
Yeah.
it's all, I don't know if you've ever heard of the book. Okay. So being radically candid with your team and being open and honest with them about the situation, about the project, whatever it may be, you build trust and rapport with them. And then in turn, everything flourishes. So being radically candid with people, super important. Another book I read, John Maxwell's Failing Forward. It's all about like, you're going to fail in life. You're going to fail. I tell this to my employees. It's going to be okay to fail as long as you learn from that and you move forward and don't do it again, we're good. So like everybody doesn't do things right the first time. And even us in our company, we're a transmedia company. We're trying so many new things. Like with our company, we're developing an intellectual property first and then doing a video game. Most people are like, hey, let's make a video game. And if it does well, then maybe we can do a comic book and a board game and whatever. So we're taking a different approach to it. So I tell my team, listen, we're trying this new thing. Let's just pivot if things don't work. Like, we're not going to put all of our eggs in one basket and say, this is the one project we're putting millions of dollars into. I said, let's try audio dramas. Let's try comic books. Let's see what these markets look like. We're going to touch it, feel it, see if it's right for us. And then we'll kind of move forward, pivot if it's not working. So we have that mentality in my company. Like, if you fail, which you normally will, learn from it, move forward, don't do it again.
Yeah. But try the new thing, even when it's scary.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
And it is scary to try new things. Getting outside your comfort zone is extremely scary. So, but I want people to try new things. I mean, I feel like that's how we're going to be successful if we try to be different, try new things. Even the games we're making, like this tabletop role-playing game that we're currently developing right now, we're putting new game mechanics in that aren't really seen in like the Dungeon and Dragons world or these other tabletop games. It's going to be a little bit different, and we hope that it'll catch on. I mean, Justin's great with tabletops, and so is my writer designer Rachel. So I hope that it'll do great things, but you never know. We're going to try something new.
But all the really successful people are the ones that are crazy enough to say, I'm going to do something a little bit different and I'm going to try it.
A little crazy.
You have to have some level, maybe it's thick skin to be doing what you're doing and mess up and try something else. Do you have a story about a time where something went awry, but you learned a lot? I'm sure tons.
Oh my
anything
gosh.
really pivotal. I mean,
yeah. So I have always had really thick skin. I honestly don't let anything bother me. And my partner Tony, she's like, how do you do that? How do you not care about this stuff? And I said, you know what? In the grand scheme of life, some of this stuff just doesn't matter. Like, the fact that somebody doesn't like what I said or doesn't like how I'm doing something or has a problem with it, like, I'm just going to move on and do something new. Like, it's okay. And I honestly think a career in recruiting helps thicken up the skin. Like, no joke, if you're an external recruiter and you get turned down left and right, whether it's trying to get new business, whether it's, you think you're going to get a placement and all of a sudden they decide to go someplace else. I mean, it hurts, and you have to be like, okay, I'm just going to move on. So you thicken your skin up and be like, I'm not going to let it bother me, because if I let things bother me, I'll get down in the dumps and I'll just never get out of it. So you always try to be positive, keep moving forward, just keep swimming. If I have a very specific example, I mean, there was a time when I was first trying to get into gaming, where I tried to talk to Epic Games, and I tried to work with them, and I had a connection there where I knew this guy really well, and I said to him, "Listen, like, can you get me into Epic? Like, I know you've worked there for years, and also you have a great background. Like, can I tell some of my other clients, like, hey, I talk to these caliber of people, that I talk to this director level person over at Epic. He's the type of person that I talk to on a regular basis." He ended up forwarding my message to the director of human resources at Epic. And in the email, you can kind of get the fact that, like, this director level person thought that I was trying to poach his person. He's like, well, you're trying to showcase this person to other people. Like, I never want to talk to you again. Like, so he blacklisted me from Epic Games. And like, even though I have lots of friends over there, he's like, we'll never work with Paxton. He's trying to take our people. And I really wasn't. Like, I wasn't. But at that point, I realized, I said, okay, I'm not going to let this get me down. Like, I'm just going to continue to talk to people and still build the relationships, because I think in this industry, it's all about relationship building. It's a very small industry. So you will know people over the years that go work at all these different companies, because people change places. So I said to myself, I'm not going to let this one get me down. Like, I'm going to keep moving forward. Even though I can't work with Epic, who was honestly 10 minutes down the road from me, I'm going to work with other people and just kind of learn from that mistake, and just never put in an email like, can you connect me with this person? And also, I'll always send 2 different emails at that point. So.
Lessons learned. See,
lessons learned.
Something, tried something else, and went on your way. I love it. That is what you have to do. And recruiting does give you thick skin because people do all kinds of
Of
different
course.
things. And that's okay. They're going to do their thing.
Yeah,
So,
your product is something that could walk off the shelf. As horrible as that sounds, but like I I know they're people, but like you're selling something that could change its mind, walk off the shelf, like just do whatever they want to do. So it's very difficult to handle that sometimes. And you have to do your best in controlling those type of situations, or at least having a good relationship with somebody. Again, it goes back to relationship building. If you have a good relationship, maybe you won't get surprised when something like that happens. You'll know.
yeah, I think I don't I don't even really work with candidates, but people can do what they want. I mean, I think you can let them know here's some rationale, and if you go somewhere else, I hope that it's the right thing for you, and if not,
Yeah.
you can reconnect down the road. That's
Yep.
okay.
Relationship building's hugely important.
You will connect down the road, though. They'll
You
call
will.
you. Probably if they had a good experience with you, and
Yeah.
they'll say, "Hey, let
Yeah.
me find a job."
Yeah.
It's fun. What do you think in your career has gotten you to where you are today?
Um, I think that I try new things. I think that, early on, I started a company when I was 22, 23 years old. Not a lot of 22, 23-year-olds will start their own company, understand what the difference between an LLC and an Inc. and a C Corp and an S Corp. Like people are like, I need to get a job, I need to focus. So I think I am a risk taker. And I
Yeah.
think that comes with any entrepreneur that you're willing to take those risks to see the reward. And that's why I've started so many companies because I said, you know what? I know that I'm good at branding things. I know that I'm good at starting things. I understand things. If I get this profitable, I could sell it and move on to the next thing or grow something. So I think a lot of it has to do with being able to handle risk, and being able to multitask, being able to understand all those different things like I talked about before, whether it's, operations, human resources, production, creative, like you could sit me in front of Photoshop and I can design a logo for you. I could also get in a project management software and move tasks around. Like I said, I know enough about a lot of different things to be, dangerous. So multitasking, broad understanding of things, and risk taking, I think are the three most important aspects of starting, running companies, successful companies. Not all my companies were successful too. Like I had a scavenger hunt tour in the Outer Banks of North Carolina called Experience OBX. I tried to create this big festival in the Outer Banks of North Carolina. Didn't go the way I wanted. I said, let me turn this into a scavenger hunt tour where people can buy scavenger hunts and go around the Outer Banks. And didn't do very well. I kind of shelved the project. But I learned. I said, this is not this needs a lot more hand holding, and I probably need to be close to that world, that location to be able to effectively do a scavenger hunt tour. I just love the beach in the Outer Banks. I was trying to do something cool there. But I learned from that, and I think that trying new things, realizing that not everything's gonna be a success, and learn from it and move on.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, love it. Who do you admire the most in the industry? Who's really inspired your career?
Um, in the game industry, I like that. So I've met him. I like John Romero. I mean, he comes with a personality. But John Romero created the id Software and Doom. But I like the fact that this is a guy that created something out of a garage with a bunch of his friends and turned it into a genre of games, and then turned that into companies, multiple companies. I actually was working with one of his companies years ago, helping them build it in California. I think John Romero is a cool example of just somebody that just had a cool idea and went with it and created something new and fun and exciting. So other than that, I would say my father, as corny as that sounds, my father's also a great example. He's owned companies, he's owned consulting firms, he's owned a lot of things over the years, and I learned a lot from him. So I guess entrepreneurship runs in my blood because he's always owned companies, and I saw that in him. He worked very hard, and I said, listen, owning a company, it was hard work. I see that, Dad. And he said, yeah, it was. I made a lot of sacrifices owning my own company. There are certain things I'd do again and certain things I didn't. I learned from him that like he was off on business trips three weeks at a time. I didn't see him. He ran an office in France and in London and all over the place. And he said if I had to do it again, I'd find a business that I could still run and still be part of my family. So I said, whatever business I have, I want to still be part of my kids' life. And I have 4 kids right now. So I want to be part of my kids' life. I want to coach their soccer team, but still run companies. So I said, no matter what business I run and I start, I want to be able to have that work-life balance. And I think that's important for most people nowadays, is that work-life balance, being able to have something outside of just the job that you have. So I learned that from my father, and I learned from his mistakes. And we're really close now. He lives in North Carolina, like 30 minutes from me. So I see him I saw him this past weekend. So love the guy to death. He still works to this day in the 70s. So, yeah.
That's sweet. I have a similar family
Sorry.
story. Yeah. And it kind of inspires you. And I started my business when I was pregnant, and I thought I would just do it myself. And it ended up exploding, but I did start it so I could have that balance, because I knew I couldn't where I was previously working. And I hired people in the pandemic who were doing school for their kids and needed that flexibility. But I think that's one of the best things as a small business that you can offer to other
The
people.
flexibility. Yeah,
Yes, because a lot of
absolutely.
people can't. And I
We're
don't
we're we're
care.
100% remote. Yeah, we have that work-life balance. You could offer that. We're 100% remote now as a company. And it's okay that my project manager goes off and takes half a day to sign their loan agreements, and that's okay because I know that they're going to come back the next day and work hard, and it's that work-life balance is important. So that's great that you do that for your team as well.
So important. And life stuff happens, and you do need to do things in the middle of the day. And especially if you have kids, you have kid related obligations that just come up. I watched somebody I worked with who was a single mom with 2 small children in my past office, and her kid would be sick from daycare. So she would have to go pick him up. And I mean, that's what you have to do. So,
Absolutely.
but you can still do your work. And I think you're even more motivated
Yeah,
to work if
absolutely.
you only have a short time that's available.
Absolutely. Very laser focused during those times. And I'm in the same boat where I pick my kids up from football and soccer during the day. But, I find those time slots where I'm super laser focused. And sometimes I'll pick up some work at night after my kids go to sleep, just because I'm like, well, I know that during the day I went here and did that. And, I want to finish this project today. So I have that work-life balance, that flexibility to kind of move things around in my schedule. So, and I offer that to my team as well.
That's important. I know. I always work late too, but it's my quiet time. Everybody's asleep. Nobody's pinging me on Slack. I love it.
We're in the same boat. We're in the same boat.
So,
It's quiet. I'm like, am I a vampire? Like, am I like, I love the nighttime where I'm alone and like I focus, and like during the day, everybody wants something from me. So my nighttime is my time. And it's funny because everyone's like, you only get 6, 7 hours of sleep. I'm like, but I cannot lose my time at night. The 10 to 12 period is like, that's my golden time where I'll watch Ahsoka last night while sitting on the couch looking over some messages. But that's my time to just decompress, but also catch up on things. And yeah, I think you and I are very similar.
yes, we've exchanged 11 p.m. emails for sure. But
Yes.
I work out at night too. I work out. This is my quiet time. Again, like you said, nobody needs me.
Yeah.
I get done my to-do list, and then I feel so much better coming into the next day, having these little ends tied up.
Yep. Work-life balance. Super important.
That's my work-life balance, though.
Yeah.
It's not everybody's balance. What does work-life balance really mean? Like, do you want to work some?
It's
Do you
what you want. It's given the flexibility to do what makes sense for your life and your situation.
at the
So
time?
having a company that's flexible like that.
Yeah, and I think people go through different stages in their life based on family and personal
Yeah.
needs and hobbies too. And
Yeah.
that's okay. Okay. I want to hear a little bit more about your CEO group too. Did you join that when you started this most recent studio, or is that something you've been a part of for a while?
It's a video game CEO group. So there is I want to say there's 70 or 80 CEOs from a bunch
Oh,
of video game companies that are all part of the same group. And these aren't the big AAA studios. These are small to mid-sized studios that we all kind of share best practices and talk about, oh, here's some funding options. And we kind of talk about issues going on with our studios, and we give positive praises when people are shipping games. And it's a group, like, we just share best practices and we help each other out. People that are kind of in the similar boat. So it's
okay.
it's on Discord, and actually another CEO that's local to me, he kind of set it up, and it's been really nice being part of this. And I've added some people from the Amplifier Embracer group to this as well. So There was one point where there was like 4 or 5 of us coming in, and they're like, "Oh, the invasion of the amplifier team!" Like, because there's a lot of decent studios. There's one local to me here in town, Zapper Games, which has about 25 employees. I knew all of them from Funcom. They joined the group, and you know, they yeah, of all different shapes and size companies. There's some people that have 5 employees. There's some that have 40 employees, but we all have different ways of doing things, and we kind of share that with each other and bounce ideas off each other. It's nice.
The most valuable of all.
It's been great. It's like my second Discord server that I'm on. Like I have my company one, and then that's the next one down. Then I have all these other ones. So I'm constantly, jumping into that one, talking about things. And a lot of those people are over at Gamescom right now, kind of networking and showcasing their games. So that's happening this week. So
But you'll be there.
I will not actually.
No.
I'll be there next year.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go this year. I was at Gen Con in Indianapolis talking with a lot of board game and tabletop companies for some of the projects we're working on. But Gamescom, since we're not going to be doing our game for another year and a half ish, I didn't want to go to Gamescom just yet. I cart before the horse kind of thing. So we'll be out there. I kind of want to just focus on getting everything, the strategy in place and getting everything set up properly, and then I'll be heading out there next year.
Maybe I'll see you.
Cool. That'll be great. Yeah, you'll probably see me at GDC. I'll be going to that this year if you end up going to GDC.
I'll definitely be there. And I just tried to book my hotel, and they're mostly sold out. A lot of places in the city already. So book your hotel.
Great. That's how it always is with these conventions. It's like they fill up so quickly, or they block them out for vendors, or so there's not a lot of options. So you have to kind of look for that. So.
I booked pretty last minute last year, but it was fun. You just bump into people.
Yeah.
It's fun to see. It's fun to see people in real life too, after so many years of
absolutely. Both doing digital or over cameras or emails. Yeah, absolutely.
Best. Okay, I have one final question, and before I ask it, I want to point people to your website. So it's Studio Hermitage. HERMITAGE.com. The last question: what is something most people wouldn't know about you?
What would people not know about me?
Surprising.
Went to the Junior Olympics for track and field. I was a pole vaulter and I did running, or maybe I was in a punk rock band and I had long hair. So right about here, I had it in braids for a little while, but I was in a punk rock band. I actually have my guitar still back there, but in the high school time period, I had some longer hair. I played, the Green Day and Sex Pistols and Ramones and that kind of stuff. And I did a lot of punk rock music with the long hair. And then I ended up shaving it and got serious and took my business classes. And so yes, I was a punk rocker for a little while playing the guitar. So
need pictures. Pictures or
sure.
It didn't happen.
It didn't happen. Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure I could find some, but I had the haircut where you kind of shave the sides, but the top was super long, and then I had this one girl one time just like, let me braid it all. So I had that top braided, and I was like, what am I doing with my life? I don't know. But it was fun. It was a fun period. So
yeah, that's an experience. That's not what I thought you would say. Yeah. So I love it. You're full of surprises. Yep. We've been talking to Paxton Galvanek, who's the founder and CEO of Studio Hermitage. Paxton, where can people go to contact you or learn more about you?
I'm always on LinkedIn. Just look for me up on LinkedIn. I'll connect with you if you want to connect with me. It's a great platform to just have connections and reach out. You could DM me on LinkedIn. Our website is kind of bare bones now. We're about to launch our new website probably in a month, which will have a lot more information and a career portal, as we kind of ramp up our hiring at the end of this year, early next year. So we wanted to have a nice website. So that'll be up in about a month. So maybe by the time you see this podcast, it'll be up and running. We'll see. So, but LinkedIn's probably the best way to reach out to me.
Perfect. Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to the show this week. To catch all the latest from Here's Waldo, you can follow us on LinkedIn. Be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes. We'll see you next time.